Every mask hides a deeper mask. No human being walks into the world naked of spirit. Every face you see is a deliberate construction, a careful arrangement of expressions, words, and gestures designed to project something useful. Sometimes that usefulness is in seduction, drawing others near with charm, confidence, or apparent kindness. Sometimes it is in intimidation, repelling threats through authority, coldness, or indifference. And sometimes the mask is crafted simply to disappear, to be so unremarkable that the wearer passes through life unnoticed. But the truth is that even the most convincing mask is not the end of the story. It is only the first veil, and behind it is another, and another still, each born from a different need, fear, or memory. The first mask is the one that the world sees most readily. It is the public identity, shaped by society's expectations. A man in a suit walks with a certain posture because the uniform of success demands it. A woman in the crowd smiles politely because the unwritten rules of civility require it. This mask is rarely questioned. People take it at face value because it fits the roles they already believe in. But if you stop here, you will never truly read anyone. You will simply read the surface. Behind this first mask lies the personal mask, the one tailored not for society, but for close relationships. This mask is more flexible, revealing some emotions while concealing others. It lets slip moments of vulnerability with trusted allies, while keeping defensive armor intact for strangers. This mask is where subtle contradictions begin to appear, where someone who projects confidence in public may privately show insecurity, or where someone gentle in conversation harbors a hard, uncompromising will. And yet, there is still more beneath that. There is the primal mask, the one forged not by choice but by necessity, often in the crucible of early life. This mask is born from survival, from the lessons learned in moments of shame, danger, or loss. It hides the deepest wounds and the fiercest ambitions. Here, the language of the mask is not found in what is shown, but in what is absent. The way a person refuses to talk about certain topics, the moments where their body stiffens without reason, the subtle avoidance of specific emotions. These are the seams where the primal mask has been sewn into place. To read someone at this level requires more than observation. It demands patience and the willingness to let silence speak, because masks are not removed easily. They are not ripped away by force. They are loosened over time, often without the wearer realizing it. The mind, like an actor, grows wary of holding the same pose for too long. In unguarded moments, when tired, distracted, or caught off balance, the truth peeks through, and one layer gives way to another. It is in these moments that the reader of people finds the next hidden face staring back at them. A face that is closer to the core, but still not the core itself. Because just when you believe you have reached the final mask, you discover that it, too, is only another layer, and the self beneath it remains as elusive as ever. Desires speak louder than words. Every human life moves under the pull of unseen forces, and those forces are desires. Some desires are loud, declared openly with confidence, as though the person wants the world to know exactly what they chase. Others are buried deep, so deep that even the person carrying them may not admit their existence. Yet whether admitted or hidden, desire leaves a trail. It shapes posture, it sharpens or softens the voice. It determines where the eyes rest and how long they linger. If you can trace the origin of these movements, You will find the architecture of a person's inner world laid bare. Words can deceive with remarkable skill. They can be dressed in politeness, woven into the fabric of morality, or cloaked in the language of humility. A man may say he wants justice, but his actions betray that what he truly wants is dominance. A woman may speak of helping others, yet her true longing may be to be adored for her generosity. The mouth can tell one story, while the body tells another, and the body rarely tells it by accident. Every hesitation before a certain question, every involuntary smile at a mention of success, every shadow of irritation when someone else receives praise. These are the footprints of desire. Desire is not a simple thing. It often hides behind other desires, wearing disguises of respectability or necessity. The wish for love can mask itself as the pursuit of wealth, because wealth seems to promise the admiration and affection the heart craves. The thirst for power can masquerade as a noble call to protect, because protection allows one to control. In this way, the stated reasons people give for their actions are rarely the full truth. They are just the most socially acceptable versions of the truth. To read someone through their desires, you must listen to their stories. But more importantly, watch the spaces between their words. Notice which topics ignite their energy and which ones make them withdraw. Watch the patterns of their attention, what they return to again and again, even when the conversation has moved on. Observe what they envy and what they dismiss, for both reveal the shape of their longing. A person who casually belittles those who take risks may not be secure in their caution, but secretly yearn for the courage they lack. Desires are also revealed in what a person is willing to sacrifice. Comfort, time, reputation. These are not given up lightly. If someone is willing to endure discomfort for the sake of a pursuit, you can be certain that the pursuit is tied to something essential in them. The greater the sacrifice, the clearer the picture of their truest hunger. In this way, even their sufferings are a form of confession. For no one suffers without reason, and the reason is always linked to something they want, but do not yet. Contradictions reveal the core. People spend their lives crafting an image of themselves, a version that appears consistent, balanced, and in control. They speak in ways that align with their values. They dress to match the roles they want to play, and they choose their words carefully to sustain the illusion of harmony between what they believe and how they act. Yet the truth of a person does not live in this smooth surface. It shows itself in the fractures, the moments where their constructed image slips and they contradict themselves. Contradictions are not accidents. They are the fingerprints of the inner reality that cannot be fully hidden. When someone speaks confidently about their independence but grows quietly resentful when others make decisions without them, they are revealing more than they intend. When a person claims they despise attention, yet subtly positions themselves to be noticed, they are showing the gap between their public declaration and their private need. Such gaps are not merely hypocrisy. They are signals of conflict within the person's identity. One part wishes to project a certain image, while another part aches for something entirely different. This conflict is where the raw truth hides, because it is unfiltered by the rehearsed mask. Contradictions often emerge in moments of stress, fatigue, or emotional intensity. When a person is tired, they have less energy to maintain the facade. Their words may begin to drift away from their actions, or their tone may betray an emotion they are trying to suppress. You might hear a laugh that rings hollow, a sudden sharpness in the voice that does not match the words, or see a smile paired with narrowed eyes. These small misalignments are more revealing than any long speech. They are windows to the parts of the self that the person is not ready or willing to display. The most telling contradictions are often emotional. A person might claim to have moved on from a painful experience, yet you see their body tense or their expression darken at the slightest mention of it. Another might speak proudly of being fearless, but their hands tremble when faced with an unexpected challenge. Emotions, unlike words, do not always obey the will, and when they rise unexpectedly, they disrupt the performance of consistency. It is important to understand that contradictions do not mean a person is lying in the simple sense. More often, they reveal complexity. A person can genuinely believe they are one thing while also being another. They can love and resent the same person. They can crave freedom yet seek security. These contradictions are not flaws to be judged, but truths to be studied, for they expose the layered nature of human identity. When you see someone act in ways that oppose their words, do not dismiss it as inconsistency alone. Recognize it as a glimpse of the hidden forces within them struggling for dominance. In those brief moments when the two selves collide, you are closer to seeing the unguarded core than in all the polished expressions they offer the world. Strength and weakness walk together. Human beings are rarely what they seem at first glance. What we call strength is often a structure built to guard a wound, and what we call weakness may be a seat of great power not yet realized. The proud leader who commands attention with authority might be driven by an old fear of being dismissed or ignored. The quiet, hesitant soul who avoids the spotlight might possess a depth of perception and resilience that will one day outlast the boldest voices in the room. Strength and weakness are not opposites. They are two sides of the same coin, bound together in a dance that shapes every choice, every tone of voice, every movement. Many of the qualities admired as strengths have their roots in past vulnerability. Determination often grows from early disappointments, as if the spirit, wounded once, vows never to be wounded in the same way again. Discipline can be born from chaos, a conscious effort to create order where once there was instability. Even fearlessness is sometimes not the absence of fear, but the decision to act in spite of it. Forged through years of learning, that retreat brings its own kind of suffering. If you look closely at someone's strengths, you will almost always find the scar tissue that gave them form. Weakness, too, hides unexpected treasures. A person's hesitation may frustrate those who prize decisiveness, yet that same hesitation can mean a deeper consideration of possibilities, an ability to foresee dangers others ignore. Sensitivity, so often dismissed as fragility, can be the source of empathy, intuition, and the capacity to connect with others at a level that more hardened souls can never reach. Even apparent fragility can be deceptive. The willow bends where the oak breaks. The interplay between strength and weakness often becomes visible in moments of trial. A confident figure might falter when the familiar tools of their power no longer work, revealing a dependency they themselves had not recognized. Conversely, someone underestimated may rise in the same moment, revealing a steadiness and courage that had been hidden in their quiet demeanor. What appears to be a sudden transformation is rarely sudden. It is simply the moment when the truth beneath the surface emerges. Reading people at this level requires setting aside the simple labels of strong or weak, and instead tracing the path from one to the other. Often, the very quality that gives someone power is the one they had to fight hardest to gain, and the quality they hide in shame may hold the very strength they will one day need most. This is why those who seem unshakable can crumble, and those overlooked can endure. To see a person clearly is to see both their fortress and the soft ground it stands upon. To recognize that every display of force contains a memory of fear, and every moment of vulnerability contains the possibility of triumph. The gaze as a window to the will. The eyes reveal more than they conceal. They are not merely tools for seeing, but instruments for declaring the direction of a person's inner life. A voice can be trained to sound calm, a face can be taught to smile on command, but the gaze resists such control. It wanders toward what the mind wants, lingers where desire lives, and retreats when faced with what it cannot bear to confront. To watch a person's eyes is to watch the will itself, its hungers, its fears, its silent ambitions, moving just beneath the surface of ordinary interaction. The gaze does not only point outward, it also carries a weight, an intensity that changes depending on what it meets. A person's eyes may soften when they encounter something they long for, sharpen when they measure a rival, or become distant when they stand before a reminder of a past they would rather forget. These changes can be subtle, a brief dilation of the pupils, a quick flicker away from contact, a narrowing of focus, but they are more telling than even the most elaborate speeches. For in those micro movements, the will reveals its direction before the mind can disguise it. Where the gaze rests most often is where the truth hides. Someone speaking passionately about one subject might keep glancing toward something entirely different, betraying that their attention and their words do not serve the same master. Others might avoid looking at what they secretly want, as if to protect themselves from the vulnerability of longing. This avoidance is not emptiness. It is the mark of something deeply desired but feared. Just as the gaze can betray attraction, it can also betray resentment. For the eyes often hold an unflinching sharpness when they land upon a person or idea that stirs hostility. To read the will through the gaze requires patience, for people are skilled at masking their focus in the obvious moments. The most telling signs come when the gaze is unguarded, when the person is listening rather than speaking, when they believe no one is watching, or when they are caught between thoughts and have not yet chosen which mask to wear. In those quiet moments, the eyes will often drift toward what the will is truly drawn to, whether it is an opportunity, a threat, or a memory. The gaze also reveals the rhythm of ambition. Some eyes move restlessly, scanning the environment for openings to advance or to protect what has already been gained. Others move slowly, almost reluctantly, as if the will is burdened by caution or resignation. Even the stillness of the gaze can speak loudly. For eyes that remain fixed with unyielding focus often belong to a will that has found its target and will not easily be turned away. If the body speaks in gestures and posture, the gaze speaks in direction and intensity. It does not merely show what the person is looking at. It shows where they would go if there were no obstacles, no doubts, no consequences. To watch a person's gaze is to watch their future take shape in the present moment, for the will always looks toward its chosen horizon, long before the rest of the body begins to move conclusion. To read anyone instantly is not to possess some mystical power, but to sharpen the senses to the quiet language human beings speak without meaning to. The masks they wear, the desires they chase, the contradictions they cannot smooth away, the strange union of strength and weakness, and the restless pull of the gaze. These are the living texts that tell their story. Each truth is a thread, and when woven together, they reveal not a simple picture, but a layered tapestry, shifting and alive. The deeper you look, the more you see that people are never only what they show, and never entirely what they hide. In learning to read these signs, you step closer to the unspoken core of human nature, where every action is born and every destiny quietly takes its shape.